What's up guys, this is VinylicPuma, back with another Fallout 4 video, and today I figured I would talk about what I think is the best sniper build or sniper type setup for Fallout 4. Now in this video, I'm not going to go into depth on how to progress each perk, as I'm going to assume you have at least a little experience with the game already. Though I am going to be going over what starting special stats you should have, what perks tend to be more essential for a sniper build, and also what sniper rifles you should actually use. That way you have some flexibility on how you decide to progress / play through the game. But before we get into any of that, I think it's important to determine what type of sniper build you want to have. Granted, certain perks like Sneak are going to be a must for any sniper build, but something I think will be equally crucial for you is to determine whether you want to play a more VATS-centric sniper or a more traditional / manual type sniper. When it comes to VATS-centric sniper builds / setups, you're going to be more centered around using VATS to achieve headshots. This is actually surprisingly viable thanks to a number of perks, including the inherent sniper perk that you get with 8 perception, as well as McCready's killshot perk. Both of these perks should greatly increase your VATS hit chance while aiming for a target's head, and when combined with the inherent stealth of a sniper type build, you could potentially deal a bunch of damage this way. Plus, you also have easier access to criticals since you're using VATS more, and this overall can be useful in a pinch where you do get detected and you end up losing your sneak attack bonus. The downside to this type of setup, though, is that it requires fairly heavy perception investment, as VATS hit chance is affected by perception. Plus, and to even access the sniper perk, which makes VATS sniping more viable, you need 8 perception, which is pretty steep for any special stat, let alone perception, where a bunch of the better perks are available lower in the perk tree. Plus, VATS sniping isn't as good for super long distance shots, which are more easily pulled off manually, and that's something else to consider. As for the more manual type sniper build, the advantage you have here is that you don't have to focus as heavily on VATS. While you will still need some decent investment into agility to help with sneaking around, you can theoretically get by with less perception and luck investment since you aren't going to be using VATS all that much. This can be great as it frees up your perk points to put elsewhere, which is always a plus. That, and you might be surprised at how many of the more essential perks you'll need, like Rifleman, can be obtained with low perception investment. The downside with manual, though, is that you're relying much more on your capacity to maintain stealth, since that's going to provide the bulk of your damage bonus. If your stealth breaks, you lose the sneak attack multipliers, and while you can sometimes get your stealth back, getting your stealth back can become a problem in some situations, forcing you to rely on more conventional ranged combat tactics. On the flip side, though, you can usually more successfully pull shots off at higher ranges, allowing for more distance between you and the enemies, which makes maintaining your stealth a little bit easier. Personally, and between these two, I usually go for a more manual type setup, as it tends to free your perk points up a little bit more. However, VATS sniping works pretty well and can be great if you need to target something really quickly. Now, let's go ahead and we'll talk about starting special, starting with what I prefer, which is the more manual setup. So as you can see here, this is what I would typically do when putting together a sniper type build, as we have 2 strength, 4 perception, 3 endurance, 2 charisma, 6 intelligence, 7 agility, and 4 luck. When it comes to our lower stats, which are strength, charisma, and endurance, I don't think you're going to need especially high investment in these areas. After all, the most useful perk in strength for a sniper is the armor perk, while the best perk for combat from charisma is lone wanderer. Both of these are achieved at 3 in each stat, meaning you can just find the corresponding strength and charisma bobbleheads for an easy level up. You may find you want more charisma later on for local leader and maybe for passing speech checks, but just keep in mind that you really only need 11 charisma to pass any speech check in the game, which can be easily achieved via clothing and by taking certain consumables. As for endurance, you can just put an additional point here or get the endurance bubblehead for easy access to the chem resistant perk, which will be very useful if you're using chems, which is something that I would recommend you take advantage of. As for our moderate investments, which are in perception and luck, Having 4 in these will still let you get access to Rifleman, which you're definitely going to want, along with many utility perks like Lockpicking, Awareness, Fortune Finder, Scrounger, and maybe even Pickpocket if you want to use that. So you should be able to get a bunch of great utility as well as essential perks here. Finally, this brings us to Intelligence and Agility, which is where the majority of our stat allocation lies. High Intelligence is always good for the increased XP gain and for the access to many useful perks in the tree. After all, Medic, Scrapper, Science, Gun Nut, and even Vans can be useful at rank 2. You won't need to necessarily max this out, though you might want to consider getting at least 7 Intelligence so you can get the Chemist perk, which goes really well with Chem Resistant. Agility, on the other hand, is probably the most essential stat for a sniper, and thus, I've allocated the most points into it at the start. High agility will help you maintain stealth much easier, and with high investment initially, we can gain access to all of our sneak damage-based perks, like Ninja and Mr. Sandman. Later on, you'll want to keep going here and get 10 agility, which should be easier since you're starting with 7 agility already. If you want, you can tweak a few things here, though I wouldn't recommend going too far beyond what I've outlined here when it comes to strength, endurance, and charisma, as the former two don't necessarily need high investment, while the latter can always be increased later and as needed. You might be able to shave a bit off of intelligence to allocate elsewhere, but don't do too much as you lose access to the intelligence tree's many utility perks. Now that you've got an idea for a manual setup, let's talk about a VATS-centric one. As you can see here, I've allocated my points this way with 2 strength, 5 perception, 3 endurance, 2 charisma, 5 intelligence, 6 agility, and 5 luck. What I've done here is shave off some points from intelligence and agility to reallocate them into perception and luck. Before, our perception was 4 and is now 5, while luck was originally 4 and is now also 5. The advantage of doing this is that you can more easily and with less perk investment get to some of the higher ranks of both perception and luck, which will give us access to some of the perks we need. For perception, we're going to want to get Sniper, Penetrator, and Concentrated Fire to help with our VATS hit chance, while in luck, you're going to want to get better criticals and Critical Banker. However, and if you decide to get even more luck investment, you can more easily get things like Grim Reaper Sprint and 4-Leaf Clover this way, which will make filling the crit meter go a lot faster. The best part about this setup too is that you still get fairly high investment in agility, which should help with sneaking while also still allowing you easy access to Ninja, provided you either get the agility bobblehead or just use a perk point. From here, if you just got the intelligence bobblehead and didn't level intelligence any further, you can still get science, which is useful for crafting. And if you absolutely must have it, you can always put an additional point here to get chemist, which, if you ask me, is a pretty good perk. Otherwise, most of our other starting special is basically the same. Low charisma can be boosted later or as needed, and you won't need super high strength or endurance, and you really only need as much in these to get the perks that you need, which I'd say should be no further than Armorer at 3 strength, and for endurance, no further than 4 to get Chem Resistant. Now, it is worth mentioning that there is Adamantium Skeleton, which is a good perk if you're not using Power Armor, but there will be a high endurance investment needed to get there, so just keep that in mind if you want that perk. Now that we've gone over starting special, it's about time we talk about essential perks. Regardless of whether you go manual or VATS-centric, you're going to absolutely want the following perks, which are Rifleman, Sneak, Ninja, and Mr. Sandman. If you don't have these 4 perks, you need to get these 4 perks, and ideally, you should try to max them as soon as you can. Obviously, Sneak will make you much harder to detect, while Rifleman, Ninja, and Mr. Sandman are good for increasing your damage and boosting your sneak attack multiplier. If you're looking for more damage, I'd highly recommend both Bloody Mess and Lone Wanderer. Bloody Mess will boost your base damage by 15% at rank 3, while rank 3 of Lone Wanderer will boost your damage by 25%. Combined, this is a 40% damage boost, which will be very useful while not traveling with a companion and once you get some of the better snipers in the later parts of the game. Also, if you are playing as a female character, picking up Black Widow could also be useful in improving your damage ever so slightly. After that, I'd recommend you just pick up most utility perks you need or want. Some great ones are Armor, Awareness, Locksmith, Life Giver, Cap Collector, Gun Nut, Scrapper, Science, Action Boy or Girl, Fortune Finder, and Scrounger, just to name a few. You may even get some use out of Toughness as well, because you're not going to be using Power Armor. The max 50 damage resistance will help you tank hits a little bit better, especially once you get some Ballistic Weave military fatigues. Also, Local Leader will be useful if you plan on doing a lot of settlement building, and will also be useful if you want to build workstations at your settlements. At this point, the rest of my perk recommendations are geared more towards VATS-centric styles. With that in mind, these builds will definitely want perks like Sniper, Penetrator, and Concentrated Fire. Sniper and Concentrated Fire boost VATS hit chance, which will be very useful, while Penetrator is convenient for highlighting targets that go behind some kind of cover. Additionally, you're also going to want some luck-based perks like Better Criticals and Critical Banker, as that will more easily let you take advantage of the best part of VATS, which is performing criticals. Also, and like I said earlier, it could be a good idea to get both Grim Reaper Sprint and 4-Leaf Clover, as these will help with either filling the crit meter faster or regenerating the action point meter instantly. You can also try out Gunfu as well, though I think you may find that you can get by without it. Up to this point, we've primarily covered special-related perks, but it's probably a good time we also talk about some companion-related perks too. For our purposes, I'd say the best ones are Robert McCready's Killshot perk and Deacon's Cloak and Dagger perk, with the former being virtually essential for VATS-centric type setups due to how it increases VATS hit chance, while Cloak and Dagger boosts your sneak attack damage and improves stealth boy duration. Normally, you're not going to travel with a companion, but it might be a good idea to do so until you can get these perks. Then, once you have them, you can simply start traveling by yourself again. Now, let's cover the final thing that I want to talk about, which is the weapons you want, or the snipers you should use. Now, ideally, you're going to want something that's compatible with a lot of the perks we've just discussed. That means you're going to want something with a scope, something that can be suppressed, and most importantly, something that is compatible with the Rifleman perk. For the early game, don't worry as much about the suppressor and scope requirements, and just try to use whatever rifles you can get. You should be able to acquire pipe rifles and use them to great effect, and if you look around the statue just outside of Sanctuary, you can usually get yourself a pipe rifle there. If you want a hunting rifle, you can get one in the sewer near Walden Pond, or you can casually just come across them at various shops. Both of these weapons should serve you pretty well early on, and are great choices for survival due to both the .38 and .308 calibers being relatively low weight. For the late game though, I would recommend ideally 4 different rifles, which are the Handmade Rifle, Radium Rifle, Combat Rifle, and Gauss Rifle. All 4 of these can be suppressed, you can equip scopes, they have useful unique variants, and all 4 work great in survival mode due to both the weight of the ammo that they use versus the damage that they can potentially deal. If you don't have DLC, the Combat Rifle is probably one of your best choices due to how it is the best .308 and .45 caliber weapon, in addition to being the second best .38 caliber weapon in terms of damage, but ultimately edges out the .38 hunting rifle in terms of fire rate and DPS. You can also get access to the Overseer's Guardian from Alexis Combs in Vault 88, which will prove to be very powerful regardless of whether you have a .38, .45, or .308 receiver. Assuming you do have DLC though, both the Handmade Rifle from Nuke World and the Radium Rifle from Far Harbor are very good as well. What's nice about the Handmade Rifle is that its ammo, 7.62, weighs the same as 5.56, while dealing potentially more damage than a .308 combat rifle. Plus, you can carry 5 more rounds or so per pound of 7.62 when compared to .308, which also puts it above the combat rifle. As for the Radium Rifle, it's simply a stronger version of the combat rifle with the .45 receiver, and thus, it's a better option in that circumstance. Plus, you can deal radiation damage, which isn't always useful for sniping, but can be useful against legendary enemies that regain their health after mutating. Finally, we have the Gauss Rifle. While it has ammo that weighs a crap ton in survival and is expensive in all difficulties, the damage you can achieve with the Gauss Rifle is quite high. After upgrades, the Gauss Rifle should easily be able to hit 192 damage before any perks or legendary effects, which makes the Gauss Rifle the single strongest sniper in the game. While I wouldn't mandate that you should carry it around with you all of the time, there's no doubt that it's not useful, if not one of the best tools in your arsenal. Thus, you should acquire one and stock up on some ammo for it. Ultimately, and between these 4 rifles, I think you should be pretty well covered. All 4 of these have uniques which you can look out for as you play through the game, and if you're looking for legendary variants, try to get the instigating or maybe even VATS'd enhanced variants of these, with the former being the most desirable damage-wise, while the latter can be nice for VATS-centric type builds. Whether you go manual sniper, VATS-centric, or even some combination, just remember to pick a good rifle like the handmade, combat, or Gauss rifle, and also make sure you've got the Ninja, Sneak, Mr. Sandman, and Rifleman perks as a baseline. From there, you can do some of what I suggested, or you can experiment a little and see what works for you. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope it helped you all out, and if you liked this video, definitely be sure to smash the like button, click the bell so you can be notified when I upload more videos, and as always, and again, thank you all so much for supporting this channel, take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.